Hello everyone, welcome to my small YouTube channel. I am here with a new member of our family, Wilhelmina May, and today I'd like to share a little bit about her birth story. I want to share as many details that come to mind. I am 2.5 weeks postpartum, therefore she's 2.5 weeks old. She's just the cutest thing. Hello there. She is very much of a contact sleeper. So I get to hold her while we talk about her birth story. I'm going to start at my OB appointment, the one before I gave birth. It was on a Wednesday, and I went in really tired, very sad. Since Monday night, I had had 3 nights of very intense, so it had been Sunday night, 3 intense nights of prodromal labor, Braxton Hicks that would wake me up. They were so painful, and then they were like every hour. So the nights were not restful at all. Wednesday I went in. I was exactly 38 weeks, and my doctor wouldn't do an induction until 39 weeks unless of a medical emergency, which is completely understandable, but my body was in so much pain, and through the prodromal labor, I had originally wanted a natural spontaneous labor, but at this point, when I went into my OB appointment on Wednesday, I had talked to her about, once I had turned 39 weeks, if she wasn't here yet, about scheduling an early induction, because I was tired. I wasn't functioning very well at home, and I was praying about it, and I thought, you know, even though I wanted the spontaneous natural labor, I was just ready for her to be there. If she was healthy and it was okay with the doctor, I just wanted to move on, give my body the break it needed to heal by starting labor earlier. But God had other plans, because Wednesday I went in. Again, I was very discouraged at my Wednesday appointment because my doctor had checked me and I was at a 1 with dilation, no effacement. She actually told me that the baby's head wasn't even engaged in the right spot, and that could have been a problem with all my contractions and yet no progression. I had told them that her fetal movement had been slowing down, and I requested a non-stress test, and we did that. I had many contractions during it, so they saw what my body was going through. But the baby, Willow, she reacted great to the non-stress test, and so I just went home with I was a little discouraged, but I had a plan in mind of trying to get her head engaged. So the following day, on Thursday, I did a little bit of the miles circuit. I've never done the miles circuit the way that they ask you to do it, with the half hour of one position and a half hour of another, and then like going on a walk. I just did a little bit of each. I don't even think I even went on a walk. I did the position where you raise your leg on some pillows, and I took a nap, and then I did a lot of squats and just different stretches to try to get her head engaged. At the end of Thursday, I felt movement, and it felt like she moved into a better spot. Then again, I didn't know where she was. I knew she was head down, but I had a hope that her head had moved over and it was in a good spot. On Friday, there was nothing out of the ordinary. I had my Braxton Hicks as always, and nothing really happened Friday. On Saturday morning, I went to adoration in the morning, as I usually do every week. My husband and I did, we installed a light in our chicken coop. We did some outside chores. We spent time with our oldest daughter, who is 1.5. And by afternoon at 2 o'clock, I started having more intense contractions, and they had started 15 minutes apart. My husband and I were just resting during watching a show, and I looked over at him and I said, this could be it. These are different. And I said, what matters now is if they stick. And by 4 o'clock, they surely kept on going. They were a little closer, probably 8 minutes apart. I made dinner. I fed my daughter dinner. I played with her, we prayed the rosary, and I looked at my husband and said, they're now 5 minutes apart. And I told him if they get closer, by the time we put our daughter down to bed, I think we need to call our babysitter, which was my sister. Thank the Lord. She was in town because my mother was out of town, and my mom is usually the one who watches her. So, it was really beautiful to be able to say goodnight to our daughter, and it gave me a peace that if I'm gonna go into the hospital and go into labor and have this baby, at least my oldest is just resting. She was sleeping, and after we put her down, I made a phone call to my mom. Well, my mom called me after I was talking with my dad, and I told her all the symptoms I was feeling. By this time, I had used the contraction tracker app on my phone, and it was telling me to go to the hospital. They were now 3 minutes apart. They were 1 minute long, and they were pretty intense. Not painful, unbearable, but they were very, very uncomfortable. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. My husband and I made it to the hospital around 8:30. We went to the ER. They had paperwork for us to fill out. While I was filling out the paperwork, I did have a few contractions, but at this point, I didn't know. I felt like they had gotten farther apart, and that was a little discouraging. I did not want to go to the hospital and have them peter out and have them send me home. At this point, I was only 38.5 weeks along. So I knew if this wasn't the real deal, they were just gonna send me home. And I wanted it to be the real deal. And when they got us to the birth room, I got ready, and at this point, I hadn't had a contraction for a whole half hour. And that scared me. But once I got in the bed and they strapped me to the monitors, they got my IV in, my body had started having contractions again. They weren't consistent on the screen. And at this point, they weren't as powerful anymore. And I remember the nurses kind of talking in the corner, and they were doubting that this was the real deal too. And I just looked over at my husband, and I just knew. I knew this was something because of everything I had experienced at home. And I told him, we're staying, I promise. And he believed me. My husband was the best support person, best birth partner ever. It took till 10:30 for the doctor to come in and check me. At this point, my contractions, again, not very consistent, very uncomfortable. And I feel like the nurses and everyone, they weren't used to the contractions being, sometimes they were 3 minutes apart, sometimes they were 4, sometimes it was 2 minutes apart. And because I wasn't on Pitocin, I feel like a lot of women nowadays go in and get induced, and with the Pitocin, their contractions are definitely closer together and more on point. And mine weren't because I wasn't on Pitocin. This was natural labor. If it was natural labor, as soon as the doctor checked me, I knew, she knew, and she said I was at a 6. And she said, "You are not leaving this place. You are going to leave with a baby." And I was so excited. And she's like, "You did all that at home." And so I had labored from 2 to 10:30, and I was already at a 6. And I did a majority of it at home, moving around, doing chores, spending the day with my daughter and my husband. I was very excited. And so the doctor left, and the nurses were like, "Okay, do whatever you'd like to do." So I did a lot of laboring in the hospital on the birthing ball. I tried my best to stay on my feet, letting gravity do its work. With my first, I was induced. The induction started at 8 and ended at 1, so it was very quick. This time already, it had been long, and my body was very tired already, and we were just starting in a way. And I wanted to progress because I was very tired. So I stood up as much as I could to let gravity do its work. A few more hours just kind of flew by. My husband and I were listening to worship music. We were talking. These contractions were crazy. I could easily breathe through them. I was concentrated. I had to concentrate on them. But in between them, I was joking and talking with the nurses and my husband, and it just helped time fly. Until around 2:30, 3 o'clock, my doctor came in, and she asked me if I wanted my waters broken. At this point, they had not broken, which the nurses and I were kind of amazed with how intense it was getting. And I said yes because I needed it. It was 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I was so tired, and I needed to get this the last phase going. And so as soon as she broke my waters, things did progress. And I went into transition. I was at a 9, and I remember the ladies just cheering me on, my husband being there for me. I had moments of complete regret of not getting the epidural. I will admit to that. I didn't know. I was like, why did I do this again? I really needed that reminder of you chose this way for a reason, and you're going to do it really well. And my doctor voiced all those words to me. She said, if you had gotten, while I was in labor, while I was in transition and going through the hardest of hard contractions, she was reassuring me, you chose this and you're going to do amazing. You chose this for a reason and you're killing it. And she was very much a cheerleader. And so it was very different compared to my first birth. I'll mention that. Like my first birth, it was a vacuum assist. My daughter's umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. And I don't remember a whole lot of it because I had not gotten the epidural. It was in transition. I felt like I had to push, but the vacuum definitely assisted me. This time, they were teaching me how to use my contractions and push and use my body in a way that would help me. The first time I did not learn that. I was definitely fearful and just tried my best to push. And this time they were really coaching me through everything, telling me to push when I felt like I had to push. I loved my hospital staff for that reason. They were very letting me just be in sync with my body and what my mind was telling me to do. And after a few contractions of the worst kind, I looked at my doctor and I said, she's coming. And after 3 or 4 pushes, she was here. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. They placed her on my chest and I got to see little Wilhelmina May. At the end, I did have a small tear, but the recovery this time compared to my first time, again, the first time, it was a little terrifying. The vacuum and the baby created a huge tear internally, and that plus just the trauma, my recovery was very hard the first time around. I had some postpartum anxiety and depression, and I could barely move for weeks, and it was very hard. This time around, I came home earlier. I have just felt physical recovery so much quicker, and mentally I'm doing great. There are tears, I will admit that, but it's not depression or like panic attacks, anxiety attacks yet, and it's been a blessing. So she came in weighing 6 pounds 8 ounces. She was 19 inches long. She was just the most beautiful baby. As soon as she came out crying, which gave mom so much reassurance, and it was just a beautiful. My husband joked that was our first all-nighter, and it was having a baby. She was born at 3:37 in the morning, and we were for sure up all night long. The next day was a Sunday, and my husband did go to mass and grab our other daughter, and they came to visit. And then from then on out, it was definitely trying to get sleep to recover from that night. But Wilhelmina has done so well with feeding, and sorry, did I scare you? Kind of scared you. Feeding, sleeping, she's doing as well as a newborn would, and we are all adjusting really well to life with 2 under 2. And Rosalia, my older daughter, absolutely loves Wilhelmina, and that just helps all the more. And yeah, that is her story. Thankfully, with my first, we had to be readmitted into the hospital 1 week after her birth because she had bilirubin levels and jaundice, and she had to have the lights. But little Wilhelmina here did not have to do that, so that really helped with I can just be home with a newborn, getting all that snuggle time with her, and just being here with my other daughter, and just helping us all bond together without hospital stays and other things. I just wanted to shout out, my community is amazing. As soon as we got out of the hospital 2 days later, for the next 3 weeks, they had meals almost every night lined up for people to bring to us. It's just been a blessing to be in a community that surrounds families when they are expecting and welcoming new life. It's just so beautiful. And then this past weekend, we had her baptism. She still smells a little bit like chrism on her beautiful little head. So she is definitely a member of the Catholic Church, and just, she didn't cry when the water poured over her head. I thought she would. It's just been beautiful, and I will hopefully update you guys along the way. The postpartum phase definitely called the 4th trimester for sure, but I feel like the 4th trimester, this postpartum, has been easier on my body and my mind than the 3rd trimester was. And maybe I will share more about that in the future, just how the second pregnancy affected my body in ways I did not expect it to. But thank you for listening. God bless you, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. Subscribe if you want to get notifications about my videos, or like this video, interact with me in some way, and you'll be able to find me again. But yes, God bless and have a great day.